welcome to Film Juice. There is John,
Yo,
and I'm Mike, and today we have two very special movies, Galaxy of Terror and Event Horizon, both tales of space madness, and, pretty effective sci-fi horror flicks. Galaxy of Terror, 1981, Event Horizon, 1997. Overall, I was pretty pleased with both of the movies. Yeah, what did you think, John?
yeah, they were surprisingly well, Galaxy of Terror surprisingly was not bad in some ways, especially with the actors. They had a really good cast. I know you had brought it up. It was they had several. It was about a crew, a space crew of several people, and
Yeah, 7 or 8 people, I think.
very much like the Alien movie that came out
Exactly.
2 years before.
This is in no way a ripoff of that.
And you're right. No, it's not. And they head off to rescue a ship that's been or they head off on a rescue mission to another planet, and so yeah, it's interesting, all the different crew members. I thought it was kind of funny. There was a martial artist
Yeah,
within the crew, and I guess this was like the early days of trying to incorporate martial arts into films.
which I'd say that it was pretty effective. I mean, given the guy's build, I mean, he couldn't do much. I mean, he looked strong.
It
Yeah, the
was
crystals.
yeah, he was he lived and died by the crystals.
Live and die by the crystals. He actually cries over the crystals.
Yeah, he was so pissed
He's
when
just, I felt for him. That's like if somebody, I don't know, shattered my pelvic bone.
it was so strange that in some ways too, because he used the crystals as a weapon and as a tool, and they were shaped like a star, like a giant kind of like throwing star, right?
Yeah.
And
Or like a snowflake.
a snowflake. Yeah, there we go.
Mr. Girly Man with his little pointy snowflakes.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, this guy's. It kind of reminded me of like, like a leprechaun is Lucky Charms or something.
They serve no purpose but to grant him luck. They're just like completely flaccid, just Christmas decorations. But yeah, pretty decent cast. I don't know any of these actors, aside from Robert Englund and Sid Haig, who plays the guy we were just talking about. Q Hot.
You didn't recognize Core Ray Walston?
I did not.
Oh,
He just
yeah.
looked like a generic old man.
I recognized him right off the bat. Yeah, he was the principal in Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Oh shoot, that's right.
He did some other kind of like uptight old man roles.
Good role though for him. I mean, he didn't ham it up with like acting mechanical or spoilers.
And Erin Moran.
Erin Moran she has a great face.
I didn't know where I recognized her from in the beginning, but I looked her up, and sure enough, yeah, she's in Happy Days.
Yeah, Joni. And the rest of the cast is pretty good. I like the blue-eyed mustache.
Thinking about it a little bit more, I think something it was missing was a comedy or comic relief, a little bit comic relief.
I thought it was going to be Robert Englund. He had the most personality.
He did, and he's kind of the unsung hero or the unexpected hero.
And the unexplained disappearing character towards the end. We never get closure on him. Maybe he's still up there on that God planet.
This could be like some theory or like, so this is my theory here is he's then transformed into and transported to Earth to prey on teenagers of the 80s.
Okay.
In their dreams.
Okay, so he's like he becomes a supernatural kind of villain.
Yeah.
He's got space madness to the point where he's just. Does Freddy Krueger feed off of dreams or fear?
It's
Is it
fear,
us? Oh, okay.
but he appears in the dreams. So I guess it's the channel, I guess, of his power.
I like that. Connect it. Bring back Ray Walston's corpse for a nightmare on a nightmare on Quest Street.
Which is the sequel to A Nightmare in Morganthus, Planet Morganthus.
That's a much better title. But yeah, pretty good cast. I thought Sid Haig was going to be like the Chewbacca because he didn't talk for a while. I guess he's kind of a Chewbacca.
He is, now that you say that.
Like when you see him standing next to Edward Albert, it just looks like Han Solo and Chewbacca.
Uh-huh. He's so tall.
He's huge. I didn't know he was that big. Well, now he's probably smaller because he's dead. Everyone's dead.
Robert Englund is dead?
Oh, he's very alive.
Oh, yeah,
Well-
and Aaron Moran is alive, too.
Hanging on. He's 75.
Hanging on.
But yeah, who else we got? Blonde lady.
Yes, the blonde lady that gets slimed and stripped naked by the big giant worm.
Right. The actress that was completely humiliated in her role.
Yeah, I can't even say it's straight because it's just, or like a straight face. 'Cause it's so
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah, and then we have like the two most mentally unstable people you want at the command of the ship.
Yeah, I have the commander who doesn't even want to be there.
Captain Flashback, who's constantly having flashbacks to the last spaceship she was on. And everyone's like, she's the best. It's like, no, she's a survivor. That doesn't make her an expert at anything.
Captain Trantor,
Yeah, Trantor.
and then Commander Uvar.
Yeah, the guy that's just he hates on second Captain Mustache. He's just not having it.
Oh, Edward Albert Cabron.
Yeah, that's the actor. I don't remember his name. Miller, right? No, I'm thinking of
Cabron.
Event Horizon.
Yeah, his name's Cabron.
That's right, Cabron.
Abren. And then you have Ray Walston, who was core. He was, I think, a doctor, right? You find out that he was there. It's kind of random why he's there, actually.
A little bit, yeah.
And spoiler alert, but he's like the what's it called, the cell within the group.
Yeah, he's he's the bishop of the group. He's got an ulterior motive for being there,
and he's basically possessed by the.
Yeah, he's possessed by the master. Well, there's the master. Okay, we need to rewind because there's that important scene at the beginning that no one ever talks about again, where there's an old witch lady playing a game with the guy with the glowing face, and he's like, I think I'll do this. And she's like, no, you don't want to do that. Yes, I do. So he does it, and he possesses Ray Walston. Oh, he's the ship's cook. So yeah, we have that, which is never brought up again. The movie never references it. Whatever. Back to the crew.
So
yeah, poor Edward Albert didn't really catch much of a break, but
yeah, I was looking at that. I was trying to find something because he looked familiar, but yeah, there's not much in there. He did.
Weirdly, his dad, Eddie Albert, starred with Tom Skerritt in a movie right before this, and Tom Skerritt in Alien looks a lot like Edward Albert in Galaxy of Terror. So I don't know. I feel like that was a little profile leeching, mustaches and all. But yeah, before we get more into the story, I guess the set design looks just like Alien, not in a bad way.
Yeah, not in a bad way. I think it was the set dresser, Bill Paxton. It was Bill Paxton.
Oh, no kidding.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, that's funny.
And he'd later, be in Twister and
Twister, Titanic,
Aliens.
Alien.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah, he was there behind the scenes.
Yeah. This is kind of like a precursor to Aliens in a lot of ways. I feel like in the first one you didn't get really much of a feel for the alien home.
Oh,
It mostly took place on a spaceship, and then in this movie, like I said, everything looks like a rib cage or bones or something organic, but they're just kind of walking around in it. And then it definitely feels that way in Aliens, where they're walking through these like machines that look like they were alive at some point. So really interesting trail of design art.
so their their spaceship in this movie is called Quest,
Mhm.
and they go into hyperspeed like 2 times. It's a very strange kind of sequence at the beginning of the movie.
They
But
maybe they should have explained that hyperspace makes people like sick, and no one likes it because everyone just seems kind of like, oh, not again, like instead of being miserable.
and then the commander, uh, who's he's just like constantly saying how he doesn't want to be there, and it's just odd commander.
And
But
they didn't.
you tell right away he has no control like of what's going on
Yeah,
at all.
he's the commander, but he has no control. He has no command,
Yeah.
and he has like the captain talking down to him. And she's like, "Too much for you, old man." And he's like, "Oh gosh." He's like wiping sweat from his forehead, and he's like, "Well, haven't been on a mission in years." It's like, dude, why did they pick you?
Right.
The worst person.
This is supposed to be like so they blast off to Morganthus, the planet, which I always thought it was Orgasmus. It almost sounded like I was like, what are they saying? But apparently it's Morganthus. So yeah, they're heading there because they're looking for a ship that disappeared there. And it's supposed to be a rescue mission.
Right? Yeah.
And so once they get to the planet, they end up crashing on the planet. They start looking for survivors, but they find out that they start seeing things and hearing things, right? And slowly, one by one, they're being killed off.
And yeah, they just keep enduring these tests of their fear.
Right? Yeah, you see that, and some of them kind of were very like some of them were weird because it didn't. It almost seemed like okay. So one of the ladies hated worms, right?
Yeah.
So there was this big alien worm that just suddenly appeared behind her. The big worm just slimes off all her clothes and I
Jesus.
guess smothers her to death. Perv worm.
Perform.
And so yeah, that one was strange and it was really silly because it was like she didn't hear it or didn't know it was there, but it was just
No,
like
it's a
this.
giant worm growing perpetually behind her.
Yeah.
So there's that one. There's the the fire one. Captain PTSD goes through.
Oh, when he's dropping down into the
Oh, when she throws herself into the airlock and she burns up. She's the one that like Robert Englund opens the door and she's just a skeleton, pretty much. Like her eyeballs are
Oh yeah, that's right.
and then he like just fries her.
And she was going crazy because
She had problems.
she
She was hallucinating.
she was hallucinating, thinking that she was destroying the
The,
alien threat
the
on the
yeah,
planet.
she was shooting a cannon into the air, and then Core comes in and he's like, "Hey, are you all right?" And she's like, "No, they're out there." She grabs a gun and goes out to the airlock and kills herself. Inadvertent, but I have to say that actress, she acted the hell out of that part, just from like the wide-eyed terror that she expresses to like everything is hysterical, everything she said crazy.
And it made me think that she was
She was
the
traumatized.
enemy.
Oh,
No, it
I
made
thought
me
you're saying
think
the
that she
actress was so realistic that she was some kind of a survivor.
yeah, I thought she was gonna end up killing everyone or something.
Yeah, I got that too. The movie's pretty ambiguous about what's killing everyone.
It is. It really is like a reveal at the end. Like it's all such a mystery because you see you I thought I didn't even think it was their fears because of some of the like stuff we said, like the guy with the crystals, right? He said he would live and die by the crystals.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And yeah, I was like, okay. Um,
And I hate worms, and she gets devoured by a worm sexually.
and then the one guy who was kind of like on his toes the whole time, who was, I think, being one of the smartest ones, but he was an ass to everyone.
Oh,
Balon.
Balon, yeah, that jerk.
And he just gets killed by like a werewolf type
Yeah, you don't see what it is. It just like
monster.
grabs him and maims him and then throws him off of a bridge. And everyone's just like, well, he was here, now he's not. I guess he's dead. Thank God.
And this is when they start catching on to Core, the cook,
Right.
because he disappears after this, and that's when Ranger's like, hey, like, I know it's Core. And Cabrin and Aluma are just they're also together, like they're a thing. They have a romantic thing going on. So
Yeah, they got a little romantic.
they all three of them get split up at this point, and then you start seeing each of their fears coming out. And
Yeah.
Ranger is afraid of himself, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yes, didn't really build up to that. But surprise, he some impressive for 1973. What was this?
yeah, 81.
81.
It
For 1981, it was impressive, I guess. For
was still
1973.
pretty much the 70s too, right? Like,
Yeah, but there was
it
like
pretty much still was.
Robert Englund fights himself, and there's a very clear scene down the middle of the film. Like it's a doorway, but they use that as a marker to like, hey, don't move past this point because we're going to split you into two people.
Dude,
But yeah,
you're
they
right though.
fight.
It did look really good.
It did. It was pretty good, and even the stunt double they got.
Like better than the Evil Dead stuff. I
Yeah,
remember
for
seeing.
sure.
And then Cabrin is looking for Aluma, and you see Aluma. I wanted her to make it.
I thought she was going to be the survivor.
Yeah, and they take her down a really odd way. She's in a tunnel because they are making their way to like the center of this structure that they found, and
She reveals that she's claustrophobic. So I guess her death does make
that's
sense.
what. Yeah,
She's being squeezed to death.
and I wonder too if just back then, I don't know, people were able to read movies a little more. Yeah, to me, I guess I was just like, what's going on? Why is she?
Yeah, why are these little tentacles coming out?
And just like strangling her, and then they like crush her, and so yeah, she dies that way, and then you see some body horror.
Some over the top. It was the most over the top movie.
She like her skin and her bones just like smashed
Peel
like
off.
putty.
Yeah. And then she screams and the eyeballs pop out of her head.
And so by this point, Ranger is he's figured it out. Like, hey, he when he's been seeing a copy of himself, he's like, wait a second, that's all in my mind. He says something to that effect. And so he communicates that with Cabrin. And so they're able to go together now forward closer to the source of what's causing all this mess. And then lo and behold, you see Core standing at the top of this stairway, and
he's beckoning Cabrin to come to him, I guess. And Cabrin leaves Ranger just down at the bottom.
yeah, I was surprised about that. I was like, man, I don't know if I would have done that. No.
No, I wouldn't have been like, hey, you can take him, aim for the
I know.
or whatever he said. I'm like,
He was like,
no, I'm not
watch
going to
him,
stay there
keep
in the
a
dark.
close. Yeah, he was like, keep an eye on him.
Yeah, keep an eye on him, close eye on him, or something like that. And I guess he died.
Yeah, it doesn't say, but it's kind of
Maybe
assumed.
he bled out, maybe.
Cabrin heads up the staircase and confronts Core, and now he is tested with all of his fears at that moment. So one of them is, the whole crew appearing in their dead state, mutilated state,
smothering him.
And yeah, he's able to take them all out. And you see him like jumping across the screen, like doing like Star Wars flips is what I call them.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Right? They have that
That same like cut away from the actor, cut to the gymnast doing a flip, cut back to the actor pretending he landed.
Yes.
Because yeah, I did think the same thing. I was actually looking for this review specifically for who did the stunts on here. Did they do them in Empire Strikes Back?
Oh, that's
And
funny.
I cannot find a stunt guy for this movie, so have to assume that it was good old Edward Albert himself.
And so he's able to get through all of those tests, and Core announces, you see that red light figure come out of him, and Cabron realizes, like, you brought us here, what were your intentions, basically? And
It's all gobbledygook. He's like, oh, I brought you here because you survived and they couldn't do what you did.
you
You
survived.
didn't really give him a chance
Yeah.
to do anything. Whereas Cabron just
And
like lucked out of every situation.
right. Right. He's like, yeah, you didn't let your fear kill you. And this is an ancient test, and you won. Now I
even
must
know-
possess your body.
Yeah, because I'm an old man.
So Cabron
Again.
kills him, and then he says, now that you've killed me, you'll take over and do the same, basically, that I've done, and lead other people here to test them. And Cabron's just really resistant, saying, I'll never do that. And then I don't know what he does. What does he do after that? Does it just cut out after that?
Cabron, he absorbs the power. Oh my god, what happens at the very end?
I want to say it just ends there, but yeah, it just ends there. And it's just kind of like, okay.
Are we supposed to believe that this is going to perpetuate? Like once in a while a ship crash lands? No, I enjoyed this movie. I could watch it again, to be honest.
What I enjoyed about it, there were some things I enjoyed, but I just like seeing the actors so young, like some of these actors so young, and
Yeah,
and just doing such a good job, like in such a low budget film.
kind of
And it's
ripping
a
off.
little laughable,
It is there are laughable parts, yeah.
And there are the horror kind of, like the typical horror things where, like, for instance, they never communicate over comms, and until one does at the very end, and they die, right? While they're doing it, but that was it. But they have these backpacks as well that they never use. They just have lights on them.
Yeah, they just have lights. There's God knows what in them. It's probably like a ton of guns that they never bothered to use.
And so it had the look, but yeah, you just wonder
What's in
some
that?
of these things go unused. That in a survival situation, high stakes situation, they take most advantage of these things.
Yeah, so they stuff them with saltines,
Bubble wrap and stuff.
bubble wrap and saltines.
So yeah, I mean, honestly, like, so Ray Walston did a really good job. Edward Albert did a good job. Aaron Moran did great. I wish she was in more stuff. Robert Englund did really well. Grace Zabriskie, the crazy wide-eyed captain, did well. I mean, and then even the others, the lesser-known actors, they did well too. So it was.
Yeah, it didn't feel like anyone was acting like they were in a bad movie. They were just acting.
Right.
Because
Exactly.
nowadays you think of Roger Corman and you think of like this hammy over the top kind of very dated kind of acting.
Yeah, I've seen Rock and Roll High School. That's the Roger Corman film I've seen like a dozen times.
Yeah, like in those there's some restraint, I guess. I know he didn't direct this one, but he did produce it, which says a lot. But I don't really know much about the director, what he did afterwards or before.
Yeah, and I will say too, the set design, like you said, it every set, it doesn't feel out of place. It feels there is a cohesiveness to it, like a flow to it. Yeah, it doesn't break you out of the story. It really kind of it lends to the storytelling in it.
There's like some minor world building in the background of the movie. The characters, I have the captions on whenever I watch a movie, so I can catch whatever the audio doesn't. And the characters call each other some weird things. which is references to like their heritage, like the probably racist things in that reality. Then you have Sid Haig's character, Quahog, who's like, I live and die by the crystals. Where are you from, man? And what kind of
it's funny.
civilization is that?
And it's funny you see him and Cameron do this fist thing.
Yeah. The second time they do it.
They bring the fist up to their chin or the front of their face, and they kind of do it to each other. And
it's like stand strong or something.
Right.
And I like when Cameron does it to him and Sid Haig's like, no, man, get out of here.
Yeah. He grabs
like,
it.
I'm not into it right now.
I just lost my crystals. And it was nominated. I mean, this film was nominated for the grand prize at the Avoriaz Fantastic Film Festival.
Yeah, good for them. I mean, 82. This was between Star Wars movies. I'm sure it's like in the dearth of the Star Trek movies, but a good movie about space madness. I don't know. Would you say this was a direct influence? I mean, I'm sure tons of stories, sci-fi stories exist that are about a stranded crew who encounter some kind of evil entity or.
There are, yeah. I mean, I thought of It.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Very similar. I mean, it's an alien who is on Earth and using the fears of a bunch of kids to lure them and kill them. I think Ghost Ship. You brought that one up.
Yeah. Because these are basically ghost ships in space.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Which brings us to Event Horizon, directing by Paul W.S. Anderson in his finest moment since Soldier. We have to say, I guess we're like Paul W.S. Anderson fans.
Yeah, we've been
keep talking about
after Soldier. Yeah,
I mean, his movies are just so easy to access.
Well, I mean, he makes it so visually, especially with this one too. I mean, it's just so visually interesting. I love the kind of like panning shots of the ship in space and just those. I love like the first about 40 minutes of this movie. I enjoyed a lot, and then the second half I didn't enjoy as much.
Yeah, when it starts to distill itself, it becomes just a slasher film.
And it's too bad because you can tell just like all the detail in the sets for this one too. It's just like, wow, like everything just feels, it's all very mesmerizing, like the space, the ship, and they're around some planets, and the camera's like flipping upside down and doing some awesome things, and there's just so many like captivating. There's just so like these awesome scenes where you're just like in awe of like, wow, like these people are in the future. They're like there was a scene I was getting dizzy because it was just like the camera was just tilting and with the space station, and I was like, whoa, like that was really intense and cool.
Yeah, there's a few scenes like that where they're crawling through the space station. I know there was one that caused me to turn my head inadvertently, and I mean that just speaks to like good set design and good. I mean, these are real sets. It's not just like a green screen, you know. And because they're real, it lends itself to that same aesthetic that Galaxy of Terror had, where everything's kind of lived in and a little dilapidated, and it's very industrial and utilitarian. Everything is there for a purpose and be kind of this mechanized kind of, it's supposed to have this like mechanized feel about it, but you know, the humans of the film and the alien of the film kind of disrupt it. And as you pointed out earlier, the designs of the ships were very weird. The Event Horizon itself feels like 4 ships kind of mashed together.
And so this one has almost exact same premise in that a group of a crew is in space, is going out to rescue, or not to rescue, I'm sorry. It may not be a rescue, but they're going out to the Event Horizon that just appeared after several years. It just appeared in the galaxy somewhere, and they're sent to investigate and see if there's any survivors. And so this crew has been together, it seems like, through a lot of different missions, and um, there's one new member who's a doctor who's played by was it Sam Neill?
Sam Neill? Yeah.
He's there to dig up the dinosaur bones of the Event Horizon. No.
No pun intended. Or it is. Pun intended.
No, there's no dinosaur bones, but yeah, you find out that he designed the Event Horizon, and he designed it to travel through space. And it's actually a really cool way, like, explanation that he gives of how it travels through space at the speed of light, or faster than the speed of light.
Well, he says that it doesn't, they pointed out, like, it's impossible to travel faster. And he's like, oh yeah, that's true. But what this ship does is the core creates a black hole, and it travels through the singularity to another spot in space, and then space bends back to normal. Right. So it's like refracting space to move a further distance.
Exactly. If you can get that, wrap that around your head. And it's funny, in Stranger Things, if anyone's a Stranger Things fan, I think it's season 2. I want to say it's season 2. They talk about a similar concept of so space and time, and they use a sheet of paper just like they do in the Event Horizon.
The exact same thing. And I think Interstellar does it too.
And they fold the piece of paper and say, well, now these 2 points are, since this paper is like space and time, it's bent together, and these two points are at the same point at the same time. And that's what the ship is essentially doing. And the core is what they call it.
Yeah, the core is doing
within the ship. Yeah.
And inadvertently, it's actually traveling to another dimension, and then coming back with a bunch of surprises.
Yes. And that's the interesting thing too, that comes up towards the end. And because towards the end you find out that, like, it's like a hell, like that's what they're describing it as.
Their worst. It's basically their worst fears. Lawrence Fishburne, he sees the guy that he let die to save some other people.
And this was years ago. And
yeah, it's years past. There's no way. He even tells Jason Isaacs, the doctor, like, I've never told anybody that, but the ship knew. And kind of a weak explanation.
Well, I like that one, actually. I like that one because that one made it clear. To me, it helped put the pieces together. I thought it was a good way to help put the pieces together, that this is drawing on their fears, on their personal, kind of their personal thoughts and fears.
Within the context of the story, it makes like perfect sense. But when you think about all the hallucinations people experience, like after they've done acid and stuff,
mm-hmm.
like, yeah, you could have just been deprived of oxygen. I think the doctor even says something. The doctor is very skeptical. He doesn't believe what anybody's saying.
Sam Neill or the other one?
The other the actual doctor.
Oh, okay.
I should call him what he is. Which
DJ.
Is it DJ?
Yeah.
That's right.
Jason Isaacs, yeah, DJ.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and he has been seeing things too, though, kind of, but not in the same way. Because he saw Justin. He was saying, the dark inside me, Justin was the first one to really be attacked, because he went into the core.
Yeah,
he portaled at the core.
It like sucked him in and spit him out, right?
Yes, yeah. And he was saying that later on he tries to kill himself, and he starts talking like, everything I saw, everything, inside me, like, I don't want to live.
Oh, okay.
Remember that? So he almost does kill himself, and by just like opening a door into space up from the ship, so he would suffocate and explode, basically. And that was a freaky scene.
Yeah, seeing his veins pop out. And
Yeah, he's
seeing,
like, it's happening, and his eyes are
yeah,
about to
my
bulge and
eyes,
pop
look at my
out.
eye.
And Lawrence Fishburne's character, just Miller, Captain Miller, he saves him. But yeah, but Justin, that character, you get the sense no one knows what's really happening yet, but he almost has, with his character, it's like he's almost possessed because he didn't even know he was in that, or that, like, they're halfway through the scene, that little section. He's like, what am I doing here? Why is this door opening into space here?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was
I was just like,
interesting.
open the door, Mama Bear.
Oh yeah.
And she's like, Baby
So
Bear, no.
what was up with that? Were they really like mom and
I
dad,
think
or
I think she just maybe like took him under her wing, and maybe he didn't have. There's a lot there to like infer, but I think she was like a surrogate mom, kind of.
so this was a huge crew.
Yeah,
Because that was Kathleen Quinlan, played the character Peters, and like there's still 7 other characters that were in this movie, that several others that yeah, there's Jolie Richardson, which I thought we'd see her more.
yeah. She died like a punk,
No, she lived.
didn't she? Well, who died when they just like crashed through the? Oh, somebody crashed through something and fell and they died.
Um
Am I thinking of the other movie?
you might be thinking of the other movie, because it took a while for someone to actually die in this movie.
Oh, okay. I think
Yeah,
I'm thinking
they
out there.
I like that because it did make them seem like they were experienced, like in this kind of
Yeah,
uh
they weren't just thrown in there. Like they kind of they
like
were
they
seasoned.
were. Yes, exactly, they're a seasoned crew. You had Richard T. Jones played Cooper. He's kind of like the comedic. uh
Yeah, and the most competent one, maybe.
um you had Sean Pertwee, who's the mechanic.
All right, the bloody mechanic that talks like this.
Mm-hmm. He was a good character
I liked him. I thought he was going to
because
come
he
out
was
of.
smart too. He knew right away, like him and Smith and Cooper knew right away. Like Smith didn't even want to go on to the Event Horizon.
Yeah, he was like, "Why am I here? I don't want to be here." Well, like a lot of the characters are, but they literally didn't know what they were getting into, right?
They weren't told. I think they were told it was a rescue mission, I think is what it was, but or they were told something. They were told another story, but Sam Neill's character Wire, he explains to them like, this is top secret. Like, you were told this, but this is what really happened. Like, it's been missing. It went into like a black hole, and it's been missing for 7 years.
Yeah, and so we're out
And
here to find out where it was.
yeah, and so yeah, they see like all this. I think they see some like signs of struggle within the Event Horizon, and
Yeah, they look at one of the bodies and they're like, "Oh yeah, this body is fine," and they're like, "Wait, no, there's a bunch of lesions on it," and
and
they close up on the body and it's like torn up pretty bad.
they find some video and audio recordings as well.
Yeah, with
That
the hell the hell screams.
Yes, and there's like Latin as well. There's like someone speaking Latin for some reason. Um, and then there's like is that what you said, universal language?
Yeah,
And then later on, they're kind of smoothing out the footage to try and get clues and audio and visual clues, and then you see there was this huge like orgy, death orgy,
yeah.
and that was how the crew was, I guess, all killed.
I guess so.
Um,
It's in, or at least the rest of them were killed that way because I don't know. There's no sign of their bodies. There's like blood stains on the wall. There's yeah, you don't really see a
but
trace of.
not everywhere, yeah, because some parts of the ship looked like almost
No,
untouched. So yeah, you're following a bunch of characters, but surprisingly, I didn't feel like it was too many characters. Did you?
no, I didn't. I thought it was pretty coherent and pretty clear as to, they're all going in different directions, but they start once the horror sci-fi starts, and I think you said this is where the movie kind of loses you. But like once you get past all the humanity of the movie and you get into like let's kill him now phase, you kind of start to ignore the story.
I think what I wasn't there was some of the fears. So in this one, I had the problem where some of the fears of the different crew
Mhm.
were weren't that well explained, or you know what I mean? Like
Yes. Yeah.
you didn't get to sit in with that character long enough to kind of like understand that fear.
Mhm.
Um or not understand it, but just um I
To
guess just
understand
kind of
why it would be such a big deal,
right.
the impact of it, you don't really grasp it with some of them.
And and this is towards the end where they're like, crap, we got to get the hell out of here. And that's when they start. It's like there's like this talk as well throughout the movie of like the ship knows, like the ship
Yeah,
is
the ship.
reacting to your words, Captain. And and the ship kind of goes crazy apparently when he says we're gonna blow this thing up, like make sure whatever it is blown up, blown to pieces. And so that's when the ship starts going like hardcore on all the crew members. And you see one lady, she sees her son again running through the ship, and they were just like saying, "We got to get the hell out of here because this
Yeah, they
ship's
were just saying
crazy."
like she's literally the last one left in the room, and she starts hallucinating, and she follows it.
And it was just like, "Come on, lady! Like this. Like y'all have already talked about what the ship does and the hallucinations and playing on your fears, and you're literally going to believe that your son who died is there,
Yeah.
somehow, like light years away."
Yeah, so it's just causing them to behave completely irrationally.
So that was a little far like she went too far too soon.
Yeah.
Um and then the one that I felt almost the closest to was the doctor's fear. Dr. Weiss.
Yeah.
Um I thought that was a really cool reveal towards the end. Do you remember that? So he's been seeing his wife naked, like with
That's right. He sees her slitting her wrists and all that.
yeah, and all of a sudden he's in his old I guess like home, and he's saying hi to his wife, and it's like she
Yeah.
doesn't even know he's there.
That was a good creepy moment where he's like, "Oh God, not again."
Yeah, and you see her filling up the bathtub and getting ready to kill herself, and so now then you finally realize, oh, this is why he's been seeing her. This is and
Oh, that is true. I don't know. I felt like in the wave of like all the everybody affirming their own fears, like I guess it didn't really hit me that hard.
yeah, because at first I was like, okay, she's naked, her
Yeah.
eyes look all weird and crazy, and to finally see that, I was like, oh wow, yeah, that's crazy. That's
Yeah, it's got to lead to a hallucination.
and then Lawrence Fishburne's character, Captain Miller, his fear, you see it play back a few times where one of his old crew members, drowned, right?
He burned to death.
He burned, okay. And so he appears a few times to him, and he kind of like, he confronts that fear. You see him confront it.
Yeah, he has to because it's at this point Weir is embodying Miller's fears. He's like shooting fireballs at him.
Yeah.
He focuses on Weir and beats the crap out of him a little bit.
The strange thing I didn't understand about the enemy in this film was about how much power do does each crew member actually give to the creature, or the entity, the evil entity.
I thought that maybe it was like all powerful, but it like toying with them. Like could have easily
Yeah, it
killed
could have
all.
been.
I was thinking like it could have easily killed all of them, but it seemed to like the tormenting was just stretched out so long for all these characters that you can't help but feel like maybe whatever it is enjoyed it, or maybe I'm bleeding over from Galaxy of Terror. Whatever it was causing it was playing with the crew, kind of.
That's a good point. Because it makes me think of towards the end, it's really some of the crews is knocked out, and you there's a kind of like a final boss battle basically with between Miller and Weir.
Yeah, didn't really have to happen that way.
And you hear Weir, he's all like cut up and at this point, and he which is a lot of like that was the body horror, like ultimate body horror moment right there, wouldn't you say? Like, or one of them.
Oh, the scratches on his face,
Yeah.
slices, I should say. That
That,
was great. I thought the um the dissection of the doctor or DJ was
oh
pretty bad.
yes, that was real bad.
And
That
if you
was
freeze
really
the
bad.
frame, you can see like all these satanic runes written in blood around him,
Oh, I
which
didn't.
makes it even worse somehow.
I saw his guts on the table, like
Yeah,
in
if
little
you
trays. It was like,
yeah,
whoa.
and that was an accident for me. I'm not a weirdo, but I was trying to get to a specific line of dialogue, and I was like, oh, okay.
You know, he actually brought up something to Miller before he dies, and the Latin phrase that was in the recording they found, and that was that he thought it was save me, but it was save yourself from hell.
Yeah, save yourself from hell.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting phrase for the movie.
No, that was interesting. I mean, the idea that hell, this was like a very Doom concept because Doom came out before this movie, but the idea that hell isn't an afterlife, but more of like another dimension you could travel to, and um, that it could travel to you as well is kind of a interesting concept. It makes it pretty tangible, I think, in terms of like you don't have to be dead to experience hell, but this is way worse.
Yeah, I think that was interesting that the connection they made there, because it was, it was the concept of them creating their, or almost, I don't know, if creating their own hell, but maybe even allowing it to live within them, in some ways,
Right? Yeah.
Um, and I like that. I like that aspect because it gets you thinking even on a deeper level of like, wow, they went into this other dimension. Maybe they saw something that was beyond, maybe they did travel, because it could be that they traveled into death, into that realm.
That's true.
Um, and and it gets you thinking, oh, what is that place like, Um, so I like that. I liked how they threw that in there, and to add that, it added another element to it.
Yeah, and it
Um,
was interesting that an event horizon is like I think the closest spot to where you're getting sucked into a black hole. And it's kind of interesting that they're seeing all these fears like right at the end. So it's like right before they die, what they're experiencing is all the horrible things that they've experienced. And yeah, that it's I mean, ignoring all the it influences and everything that's influenced. It's an interesting concept to explore the like the paranormal side of sci-fi because I mean, really, it all kind of bleeds together anyway.
yeah, because you have the scientific and mathematical, and then
And
the
then the supernatural comes in and just blows it all out of the water.
yeah. It looked like this one. So originally, I think part of what was what kind of hurt, at least like the immersiveness within the story, because the story's plot was pretty good. I mean, there's nothing really. I mean, it was basic premise, and the characters were written really well. They all had a purpose, and no one felt like stupidly like written in or anything like that. And but the film was originally supposed to be longer. It
Oh,
was
really?
supposed it was supposed to be over 2 hours long, as opposed to the hour and a half that it was. I want to say the running time, yeah, the running time is 96 minutes, and the original cut was 130 minutes.
Oh, wow. That would have been
Um,
a different movie.
yeah, and that's what the director says. Paul W.S. Anderson, later on in interviews, said that he didn't have enough time to re-edit the movie. And he thinks that it says here that he believed he cut 10 minutes too much. The reason they wanted a re-edit was because test audiences and the studio balked at the finished product. It was so violent.
It could use more violence.
I know. I thought it was gonna be like super way over the top, but like, so like the most hardcore one, violent scene at least was the DJ, the doctor's autopsy.
Yeah, and they don't even show it.
And they don't show it, yeah. But yeah, what they did show was just like, whoa, like guts.
Yeah, the rest of them were pretty tame.
Yeah, and they were.
I mean,
like
by
one,
that standard.
yeah, the lady who was following her son just fell down a big, like fell down from a high place, and
That's the one I was thinking of.
oh, okay, yeah, that was towards the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, she fell down and breaks her legs, and
very unceremonious death.
And she kind of just lies there, at the bottom, in this liquid, dying.
That's right. Yeah.
So I thought the ending left it a nice opening for a second part.
Yeah, I think so. It could. I mean, by destroying the ship itself.
Well, they didn't destroy it. Oh, go ahead.
Well, it got sucked into the black hole, right?
Yeah, it was able to open a black hole and get sucked into it, and they blew it in half because that was a safety measure.
Mm-hmm.
That was built into it, and they took the other half and sent out a distress signal from it.
That's right. So I don't know. I was thinking maybe like, what's her name?
Stark.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe she might be a little possessed.
I was thinking that too, and Justin.
Yeah, Justin, because they, at the very, very end of the movie, when the rescue crew comes over, they're like, "Oh, we got 3 survivors," and it's like, I just saw 2 people, and they're like, "Oh yeah, Justin's fine, but he's severely injured." So what's keeping him alive?
And then Cooper. Well, that the pods they were in, they froze themselves in those stasis pods.
Yeah.
That they use that to travel through space too, and to travel with the light speed as well, or something, right? Or something like that.
I think so. Yeah, in order to stay alive, because they don't know how long it's going to take, or it takes way too long. They get bored.
But yeah, Stark wakes up and she sees Weir.
Yeah.
And the rescue team, and he's like, everything's gonna be okay.
Yeah, he's like, you're with us.
And then she wakes out of that, and Cooper's holding her, and she's crying and screaming, and he's like, it's gonna be all right.
And then it ends, which is a great ending.
And the door closes.
Yeah, the door shuts on you.
And the rescue team's like, we need backup or whatever.
Yeah, they're like, we need a sedative. Crazy talking about alien ghosts.
Yeah, I can honestly see them. Too bad it didn't do well in the box office. It had $60 million budget, and it only made 42 in the box office.
Yikes! You win some, and you Event Horizon some. What came out that year?
97.
Yeah, As Good as It Gets, Boogie Nights, Donnie Brasco, Contact. Oh, Cube came out that year. You ever see Cube?
That movie keeps coming up whenever we talk about Paul Anderson.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
Every time.
I haven't seen it yet. No.
Gattaca came out that year. Face Off came out.
Oh yeah.
The Fifth Element was that year.
Fifth Element. I thought you said The Fulfillment. I was like, what's that?
That's a different movie.
Wow, The Fifth Element. Wow, yeah, I'm surprised. Yeah, because that has Paul Anderson's wife in it. Shoot.
Oh, that's right.
Milla Jovovich.
And I can't see anything else that year that would have been. I don't know. I don't know what sucked all the oxygen out of the room that year.
Yeah, dude. Oh man, it did horrible in the US. It did 26 million, 26.5 million basically in the US. And then internationally it did 16 million. So for a
Wow,
total of 42 million.
it's not a brilliant movie, but it's really not bad.
I think in general, yeah, it just shows how the end, it just, or at least the second half, just kind of isn't as good as the first half. I mean,
Yeah, and it came about too. I want to say in like, when did Scream come out? Like 95. So yeah, I mean it came out in like the
oh,
birth of,
96.
yeah, like the redo of like the reinvention of slasher films.
Mm.
So like Scream came out, and after that, it was just like every few months there was a new slasher movie. So I think the movie may have suffered from that. The producers may have felt compelled to make it into a slasher film. Again, that's why it feels like a sudden jolt in tone.
Yeah, it made me wonder what made Wes Anderson work on this film too. Um, I was, and that's just out of my general curiosity. Because I don't think he had really done like a big horror or anything before this. I think at this point he actually, it seemed he was doing really well. So I would thought he'd have a more of an option of what he wanted to do,
Yeah,
and it seems like
he was pressured to put
chose
his.
this. Or
Yeah, I think he was pressured. I mean, he had just done Mortal Kombat.
yeah,
Oh, and even the producer said that his I his reaction to the original script was that it was too dense. So Paul Anderson rewrote it into a classic haunted house movie. So Paul W.S. Anderson was the reason the movie turned into a slasher film.
yeah. It says here, I found some more information on this here. So it did gather a small cult following, and it did do well on home video. There were plans to do a director's cut, restoring the deleted footage, but those were abandoned. Or the project was abandoned because it was discovered that most of the footage had been lost or degraded.
Huh. So who would you recommend this to? Sci-fi fans or horror fans?
Um, hmm. Yeah, I feel like the horror fans might take it better.
Yeah.
Uh, I think the sci-fi fans would be really happy with it. Probably again the first half, but yeah, the second half I don't think they'd be as interested in the gore.
Yeah, the second half is not sci-fi heavy at all.
But the
Can you hang
sci-fi that was there was really good, right? Yeah, I think if anyone's interested in something like this, I definitely recommend a video game, and that's Dead Space.
Oh yeah. The first half is not sci-fi heavy that much. Like it's stereotypical sci-fi, and the second half is becomes a stereotypical horror film from the 90s, but I think it works overall. Like it's a different flavor of things, at least in the middle of that decade. I think it stands out. It's not even like a good bad movie. I think it's just a solid. It gets a solid B from me.
I would, yeah, I'm on about the same level as you on that. I do definitely see how it definitely had more potential, and I wish it did have that proper edit. But yeah, yeah, it's definitely not a bad movie. You can see the quality all over it.
So I guess I'd prefer to watch Galaxy of Terror because I gave that one a B plus. These are a good double feature, I think. If you want to watch a bunch of Space Madness movies, watch these two movies.
Do
It does tend to be a little claustrophobic with the sound design and the way certain things are shot. It feels it's very accessible, that feeling of being trapped. And
the coldness
the
of
cold
space and
random pipes leaking.
the like unearthliness of it, you know, like
Yeah. How alien
gravity.
everything is.
What's that?
How alien everything is.
Yes, yeah. I love that about Paul Anderson. I think he's a very good guy of setting up atmosphere and in a way where you feel it, you know, and see it. Like when you're seeing it, you feel it. And yeah, I admire that about his directing. Yeah, it's very creative. I definitely recommend people to check it out. Like if they're even slightly curious, because almost right away you get pulled in. Yeah, it's funny I think if you want a good laugh, I think Galaxy
Yeah.
of Horror or Terror, and just see some like good acting, and then Event Horizon is definitely on a more serious level, but it's very suspenseful. Like yeah, it'll keep you on your toes.
I would say if you're like me and you've kind of written off Paul W.S. Anderson for most of his career, this is, along with Soldier, I think these are the exceptions. You can look past the B movie qualities of it. It's a decent movie. Ignore the name attached to it because he
That
disappoints a
was a
lot.
bad name, by the way. Actually, I'm glad you. Or I'm sorry, not Paul W.S. Anderson, but Event Horizon is a bad name.
It doesn't really tell you anything. I think
No.
Galaxy of Terror would be a better name.
Yeah, I think it would be too, honestly.
No one knows what an Event Horizon is.
Mm-mm. Like, what kind of spaceship name is that anyway? Too like Event Horizon.
And nowadays, like, what is that? Is that movie about that oil crisis that happened when the tanker Deepwater Event Horizon?
Oh, yeah, it's only an hour and a half too, so you're not.
Yeah, it's pretty short. Thank God they lost all that footage.
Right. Yeah, and they just released it on 4K, so if anyone's,
Oh, no kidding.
I feel like the cover of the steelbook doesn't even explain what it is either. Does a pretty bad job of that too, but
Well, I hope everyone gives Event Horizon a watch if you haven't already. It is on. I was gonna say it's on Steam, and I had to stop myself.
all right. Yeah, I'm John, and here with Mike on Film Juice. Let us know what you think of the movie, and give us a like or follow our channel. We're here on YouTube, Apple
We're on
Podcasts.
We're on Google Podcasts. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. What else are we on?
I think
that's it.
Anchor. We're an Anchor.
Oh, we're on
as
Anchor,
well.
yeah. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
All right. See y'all next time.
Bye.